This episode of The Catholic Money Show is sponsored by Catholic All Year. How did we come up with over $53,000 in a matter of weeks to pay for adoption expenses? Find out in today's episode of The Catholic Money Show.
Oh boy, that is a big number of dollars that you just said.
It is. I also said, how did we come up with over $53,000? And that might have been a misspeak because I really think it was the Lord who came up with
I guess it was you. You did all the work as we will
Maybe
discuss.
it was me.
By we, I mean me.
Me and Jesus.
We'll
And
see,
many
we'll
other
see.
people as well.
Yes. So yes, we recently adopted. If you've been listening or watching for a little while, you probably heard us mention that. Our newest addition to the family, our first son, 3 daughters, now a son.
If you want to listen to the episode about that story, it was quite the story. Legendary. We'll be telling that one his whole life. You can go back in the show notes and find a link to that episode, our adoption tell-all.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But that was a fun story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say this isn't going to be a fun story to tell either. But it was a different type of story.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more stressful of a story.
A different story.
A different story,
Yes.
a little bit more logistics, but it's also worth telling for a couple of reasons. One, we have a lot of hopeful adoptive families who follow the show
Mm-hmm.
and keep up with us. And they've asked us to, speak into this. How did that happen? How have you guys actually adopted 4 times? How do you make the numbers work out, or the math, etc.? So for those who are listening in that situation, I want to provide some hope, but also a little bit of clarity. We'll kind of go peek behind the curtain and see the multi-pronged approach that we took to figure out how to get this number to be possible. Okay. But then secondly, I want to share this because sometimes, not often, and not for everybody, but there are times and seasons where the Lord might call you out of the proverbial boat. And it might be a financial, like, get out of the boat, step onto the water, and it involves a lot of money. That's not an uncommon thing when we're following our Lord. Oftentimes, there's going to be a financial component to it.
Mm-hmm.
If he's asking you to start a ministry or become a missionary or to say yes to growing your family, oftentimes there's a financial component to it. And I want to tell this story to give those of you who feel that call courage to step out. And also, we're going to give some of the practicals of, it doesn't mean that you're just hoping money's going to literally fall from the sky, although it could. I've heard stories like that. We actually heard one kind of recently, actually, about that. It was very hysterical. The lengths our Lord will go to show us that he's going to provide for us.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times people just don't, you never feel, we've talked about this from the book of
Finding and Maintaining Peace.
Searching for and Maintaining Peace by Father Jacques Philippe. There's a whole chapter where it talks about specifically around finances.
Mm-hmm.
How you'll never, he likens the Holy Spirit providing for us to an analogy of jumping off a cliff, and you don't actually have confidence you're going to be caught until the wind hits the parachute and you feel yourself now flying.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be a strong similarity there between what we did and kind of how the numbers shook out for growing our family in this adoption.
Yeah, anytime the Lord's asking you to do something and we're listening, he's going to bring you to and then past the limit of your comfortability, of some of your skills, of your knowledge, of your experience. So why not your finances? And in like all of those, maybe sometimes he'll, just miraculously now you can speak really well, or these things. Other times it's an impetus, it's an encouragement to then go study or to go learn this thing so that you can then move forward in the mission given you. So similarly with your finances, sometimes it's you get up to the edge of the cliff and you're all right. Well, we got to figure out how to build this bridge across.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opportunities to learn how to do that, the opportunities to do that, they come up, they happen, and you go across, which never would have happened if you didn't go up to the edge, if you didn't trust and you didn't go, all right,
Mm-hmm.
we're getting across.
Mm-hmm.
Lord, help me figure out how.
And I think you'll see in this episode that it wasn't just like one thing that happened and then, yay, it's taken care of. It was many, many things.
Yes.
But, we trusted that God was going to show up for us, but we did everything within our human means. And then the combination of those two things coming together is how God provided.
Yes.
There was a little bit of grace and nature,
Mm-hmm.
and they came together to allow us to say yes.
Yeah.
I will say, though, this adoption was our most expensive, hands down.
Inflation's hitting everything,
Hands
apparently.
down. No, it really has. It really has. It was the most expensive, but it was the least painful. And I think there's a few reasons for that, and there was one very huge reason for that, which we'll get to in a second.
Mm.
But I want to take some time to just go in the past
Yes.
and talk about our past experiences with adoption.
And just so you, if you don't have first or even secondhand experience, you might be shocked to hear. I know I was when I first heard about it, and this was years ago when the numbers were smaller, that it could be $50,000. I'd say that's probably average these days. It could be less. It could be a whole lot more. We've heard a lot of stories from friends.
75, 80, 90. Yeah.
It's wild. And so you might be thinking, where's all the money go? That's a little bit of a question too, but there's court fees, there's caseworker fees, there's all sorts of expenses.
Expenses supporting
The birth mom.
the expectant mom, and then after she makes a placement,
Mm-hmm.
Expenses kind of following birth.
Yeah. And then all the follow-up appointments for the social workers and the check-ins and all
Finalization
on our
process.
side, on their side, all the court stuff. Yeah, it's a lot, and boy, it does add up.
The
It's
agency
wild.
staff,
Mhm.
they need to have an income
They gotta buy paper clips.
and also eat.
Yeah, all that stuff.
So all those things kind of go in to make it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But over, the past almost 10 years now, we've had the opportunity to grow our family through adoption 4 times now.
4 times.
And I would say the financial component, we've never had all the money ready to go when we found out about the chance to grow our family. That's been consistent every single situation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this myth, and I think it's perpetuated a lot today, of that you've got to have your financial ducks in a row before you even take a step. Before we even consider growing our family, I need 6 months of emergency expenses saved. I have to be debt free, and I have to have enough money for my spouse to be able to take a really long, maternity or paternity leave. And I have to be ready to go to fund all their college. And it's insane. Just the pressure that people will put on themselves. You do not have to have all your ducks in a row. You do figure out some of this as time goes by. Now with us, we didn't have 9 months. We never had 9 months. It got shorter every single adoption. And this one was the shortest. The most expensive was also the shortest. But we had a lot more experience under our belts by this time.
Yes, and while we certainly did not have the finances, we had done a lot of work ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Preparing the way.
Yes.
So that the finances could come. So it's interesting. We had probably, the least, smallest percentage maybe of the money in our pockets, so to say. But because of what we did, which we should probably get to, we'll do this. So you did want to walk through the past, you said?
Well, I guess I wanted to juxtapose this experience, because I said this one was the largest number, but the easiest. And it made me really reminisce to that, the last, our third adoption, which was within the first year of our business beginning. And we had an opportunity to adopt a biological sibling of one of our daughters, and we jumped and said yes, not knowing how we would afford it. Our business wasn't even providing enough for us to actually live at that point. And it was an incredibly stressful season. We actually wrote about this in our book.
Yes.
There's an entire chapter about, we drained all of our emergency savings. We drained everything in our checking account. We basically liquidated every possible penny we could just to eke across the finish line. I think we even asked the lawyer if she could wait a few days because the financial processor we use for our business has a little bit of a delay.
Uh-huh.
And we were just waiting on the final numbers to come in before we had to directly wire it to her. And it was so stressful. We didn't do a lot of fundraising with that one.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't feel like there was time.
Yeah.
And we just, there were a lot of different reasons. But yeah, we didn't fundraise, and then we didn't use one of the most important pivotal things we did in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it very much felt like, just looking back, God provided for us.
Of course.
But it was very stressful and hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gave us some health issues. A lot of gray hair.
Yeah.
It was a combination of a lot of stressors just
Yeah.
getting layered and layered and layered and layered and layered. And I think the Lord allowed that for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
But I'll say this, it made me scared to ever pursue adoption again.
Hmm.
Because I couldn't do that again.
Yes.
And I saw the numbers with adoption going up. So for a while
Mm-hmm.
there, I wasn't sure if our family was ever going to grow again. And that's why we had such a large gap between our youngest daughter and now our son. 5.5 years. And as time went on, I felt the courage and poking from Jesus to be like, you just need to go. And he provided a friendship. And oftentimes this is where some things will kind of begin or start, or a story begins. And I didn't know in kind of the crossing of this friendship that she was going to be so important to us.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had found another Catholic mom on Instagram. I don't know if I want to share her name.
You don't need to.
I don't need to share her name. She knows who she is. And they had just had a match. And I was so excited. And that's kind of right when I found their story.
Mm.
And then the match fell through. And she and I began talking, because that's always a really hard, vulnerable spot. They ended up getting matched again, like very soon after the match happened. It fell apart. And then a new match came.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was a lot of rejoicing with her, a lot of getting to know her. And then things kind of went quiet for a little bit because we were just starting to work on our own home study. And, they were adjusting to life with a newborn. A couple months later, I kind of reconnect with her. And they had done multiple adoptions as well.
Yep.
And the numbers were always kind of high. And so I reached out and I said, what are you doing that I don't know about? Because how are you making this happen? And she essentially told me about grants, adoption grants. And my mind was completely blown. See, to this point, we had spent about 2 years using a variety of opportunities and live events that we were doing in Wallowin to tuck the profits aside to pay for adoption-related expenses. Mm-hmm. We hosted our first Wallowin Live, I want to say in the summer of 2021 or 2022, like I forget. The profits from that event went towards our adoption fund, and then we did our Catholic Money Summit, and the profits from that went to it. But I mean, the profit is, expenses or income minus expenses, and then that's your profit. It's not the whole what you made on the thing.
Yeah, not what
right?
comes in the door.
So it was a slow way of getting there. Mm-hmm. So over the course of a couple of years, I think maybe we'd gotten to about $10,000. A fifth of the way of a $50,000 adoption. And it felt like this was just taking forever. Mm-hmm. And so that money, though, allowed us to get started on the home study. Mm-hmm. That money got us applying with agencies. All those things cost money. So that money was already helping us get those things done, get the legal fees started, get the fingerprints, get the background checks, this, that, and the other. Yes. So we were already doing that. And then she told me about the world of grants. Mm-hmm. And everything changed. And I asked, have you gotten grants for all your adoptions? And she said, yes. And covered most of it. Yes. even though it's like a year and a half apart. Yes. Like the same organizations? Yes. I'm like, what am I doing? Where have these been? What? It just blew open so much for me. And then it gave me awe that we actually had adopted 3 other times without debt, without knowing about grants. How we pulled that off? Miraculous.
Yeah.
But then with today's adoption numbers, I don't know how you could pull it off unless you were really an earner who was making over $250,000. I think that would be a situation where you'd probably be able to make it happen pretty easily in your family for obvious reasons. But if you're under that, you're going to have a harder time.
Yeah, if you've got a higher income, or it'd be your first kid, so then maybe you're both working and it's just the two of you. It's a little easier, put money away. But yeah, otherwise it's just tough. And it's like maybe a bit of a similar way, maybe not with the chip on our shoulder, but kind of like in the parable of the prodigal son, the good father, right? The older son is like, where's my party? And the father's like, just grab a goat, man. Like, they're all yours. They're just here for you. Kind of like, what? These where have they been? And our Lord just like, they were just here. You just never asked. You never looked into it. And so it's a revelation.
It really was. But I will say this, in the grant process, I found not one Catholic grant. That's part of the reason I think I didn't know about them.
Because we just didn't hear about them.
I didn't. But in the Protestant world, they are alive and well.
Yeah.
They're huge. They're generous. They're funded. They want people to grow their family through adoption. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But through the process, it was part anger and then part calling. I wonder how many missions from the Lord start in that same vein. We have to do something about this. So someday, expect the Texeras to be launching some sort of an adoption grant.
Yeah.
For other families that'll benefit other families in growing them.
Yeah, I think that is how it is sometimes, though.
Yeah.
Right. That's St. Francis Xavier Cabrini's call, right? She goes over to, hey, Pope, can you send some missionaries over to America? They need your help. And he goes, that's a great idea. Go. Yeah. So like, why isn't somebody doing this?
All mad about the
injustices. Well, because you haven't done something about it yet. That's why. So how often is that?
Yep. So these grants.
Yes.
I will say this, and if you want to ask questions, to make it more interesting.
As you thought we were joking at the beginning of the episode. Amanda did all the work. She did most of the work. I signed some papers. I helped. I had different parts in the process.
So we declared last August and September of 2023, my side hustle was going to be grant application. I spent 25 hours a week filling out grants
because there's forms for all of them, and then the submission processes and not reviews, references and letters of good standing from the church,
your
all
pastor.
sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got to keep track of all that. Who asked for what? Who needs this? What have I sent in? Where are we at? It's a lot of work.
Big manila envelopes, printing off things, labeling them, shipping them. I did all of that. I think it probably took me about 6 weeks, but I just wanted to get in and get it done. And my friend had been very generous to share with me a spreadsheet of all the grants that she personally had applied to. And it was a lot. It was 25 or 30 of them.
Yeah.
And so I did the same thing.
Yeah, she kind of coached you through or mentored you through this process.
Imagine for a second what your family life would look like if you lived out the beautiful and rich traditions of the Catholic faith. Do you see a family completely transformed by their full participation in the faith? As Catholic parents, that's our ultimate goal, to raise a family full of saints. But maybe you're wondering how you can add one more thing on top of the many other tasks and activities that already take up your available time and energy. At Catholic All Year, they believe in starting small, especially with conversation at the dinner table, and its ability to ignite the fire of faith within your family. Liturgical living in the home is their absolute favorite way to create a strong family culture and Catholic identity, to learn about the faith, and to catechize the people they love. Plus, it's really fun. With your family in mind, they created the Catholic All Year membership, which makes it easy for you to bring the Catholic faith into your busy everyday life. Through the Catholic All Year membership, you'll discover prayers and hymns, liturgically inspired recipes and activities, all curated to help your family rediscover the goodness our faith has to offer outside your Sunday obligation. Plus, each membership includes monthly discounts and free shipping from the Catholic All Year Marketplace. Take the first step in living more liturgically with your family and become a member at walletwin.com/CatholicAllYear. Yes, so I had my Excel spreadsheet, and of course some of them cost, but again, we'd had that money set aside to just get going. So as I would apply, I'd pay the application fee for a variety of them, and we had no real idea. They don't prioritize you until you're matched. So I knew that I was just going to be getting our application out there, and that most of them wouldn't really grant us anything until we came to them with an actual match. Now, a few came to us before we received a match, because it was a little bit of time. When we had sent in the applications in August, September, we actually went live in the pool of waiting families in November, and then we weren't matched until March. And there were 3 organizations that came out and, interviewed us, and that we met, and they had made a couple of gifts towards the adoption, but they just said it's going to be sitting here waiting.
Yeah, it's like we put your name on it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you have a match, we're going to send it to the agency. So it's not like they're sending it to us. They're going to send it to the agency for the bill that comes in. So we were kind of knowing, okay, that's happening, that's going. And one of those was a matching grant through LifeSong. And that involved, this kind of bleeds into fundraising as well.
Yes.
So they provided us with was it a $5,000 matching grant, I believe?
I think so.
Yeah. So we put it out there on social media that we had this matching grant. And so a couple of donations began to come in. Again, people get most excited when there's an actual match, when there's something actually happening. But we had several, family and friends and followers that wanted to kind of get the ball rolling for us. So all those funds were just kind of earmarked. So as the months went by, we started to see that, okay, we're actually getting some grants. Between the money we've got saved and some of these grants and some of the money that we've fundraised, there's $20,000, $25,000 brewing here. Okay, we might be halfway, depending on the situation.
Might actually work.
Depending, this might come together. I still have 20 other grant applications out there. But there's still that component of, well, when you do match, here's the conundrum. If you match and it's quick, well, that agency expects payment right within 48 hours of baby being and you can't just say, I'll get you.
Yeah, I mean, they could. And so, right, in our first time adopting, we were matched with, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
So that's a fair amount of time, especially once it's like, hey, we've got a match, then you can go through this process of telling the grants and all this stuff. But if it's quicker, say
12 hours
or so, not hypothetically, well, that's really quick. And then, it just makes it a little crazier.
Yes. So I had applied to all these grant organizations. I put a lot of time in, but I knew that the return on my time would be a really strong investment for us.
Certainly was.
I would get a high hourly wage, if you will, even though I never saw any of it. I went straight to the agency. That's okay. Otherwise,
Well, that's where we were going to send it.
Yeah, that's where we were going to send it. So it was really, really good and such a gift and such a blessing. We wouldn't have been able to make it happen without the grants. So that day we found out that our son was coming, we were chosen and he was on the way, I came home and my brain was just scrambled. But I did sit down and I sent like a blind carbon copy email to all the grant emails that I had.
Nice move with the BCC.
Yeah, I was like, I can't let them all know. I can't let them know it's a mass email, but I cannot
You're not going to send all those emails.
I can't write 20 emails right now. I don't have it in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even think of who's who right now. So I just had to send it out to everybody we'd applied with, even ones that I hadn't heard from and ones that I didn't know what our status was. And I just said, okay, he's coming. And if there's a way for you to expedite looking at our file. And
this is when we thought we had 3 weeks, right?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
By this
We
point,
didn't have time.
I came home to update them about 3 weeks. And as I'm writing the email of he's coming March 24th, ring, 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 he's here in 12 hours. Like, it was just a lot of things happening at once. So I wrote them that he was coming that night. I'd be back in touch in like a day or two because this was a Friday night and I figured they might not be working the weekend, etc. Instantly, probably 2 or 3 of them, some of them are not like these big organizations that have business hours. Some are, just passionate families who care about adoption, and it's them, their family foundation, and they're in this.
Yeah. And
they'll email you back immediately, and, they were like, we're in. Okay, we're going to look here. Here's the, we're going to give you $5,000. Like, it was fast, and they're going to send it. They were in this adrenaline rush with us. Not all of them, but a few of them. You kind of tell they're in the trenches with us and just excited to be on the journey.
Yeah.
So by the time Monday rolls around, a couple days later, the agency's kind of,
hello.
Here's that invoice. And I think from the agency, adoption is more than just what the agency fees are. I think our agency, it was around $42,000. And, at the top of the episode, it was over $53,000. So what is that other number? That other number represents, our home study here. It represents travel, the last minute flights, the Airbnb, the food for a week down there, just all these little things, presents for, our son's birth mom, just all these things that kind of add up. So, when we got to Monday and they were saying, we got a few more grants. So I want to say we're up to maybe like 30,000, at this point.
Somewhere around there.
And we'd submitted what we could. We submitted, the grant money was coming through, the fundraised money that we had coming was getting released to the agency. They were wiring it over. People were beginning to, they were excited, following our story on social media. Some more.
There's a little more fundraising that came in. At that point.
Fundraising came in. So we're past the $30,000 mark, still a little shy. So the second component comes in.
Yes. So there's a few organizations out there. There's these places will make grants, which, right, just like any other grant, right? It's just money freely given. And then there are some who do adoption loans at 0%. So very, very Christian, actually, but just.
It's a very biblical model of lending.
Yeah.
Is just, lending without expecting anything in return.
It's like, buddy, you spot a buddy $20. You don't expect 25 back. He's just going to give you back the 20. So then we applied to a couple of these and got those. And what was it, 20,000 in that?
Yeah, 20,000.
And so that, I think those took us across the finish line.
They did.
Right?
And the beauty of those is that they knew that we'd applied to some grants and that we hadn't heard from many of them because it had literally been
takes a while.
A weekend and I'd blasted an email. And most of them had not even looked at our application. But where they come in is, let's just get you across the finish line because that agency, they need you to pay now. And that's it. And so they helped us get across the finish line by wiring that last bit. And so we could kind of just sit back and rest knowing we can just completely focus now here in the NICU. I mean, it's a little bit sad, but it was our reality. The first 48 hours of our son's life, and I could get emotional, but I won't, because it's just part of what we had to do. Part of our labor and delivery, if you will, was me sitting at a computer for 12 to 13 hours a day, contacting and forms and the 0% loans, like getting the routing, the wire number and the arranging, and I'm on the phone and I was like running a corporate offsite at my son's NICU bedside. you would.
I mean, he was asleep.
And I felt like I had to keep apologizing to the nurses and the doctors of like, you might be tempted to think like, that I'm not present here and that I'm just, what are you doing? Like working? No, I'm trying to make this financially happen. Like this is just part of what I have to do to welcome my son home. And it, I didn't need to apologize for that, but I felt like I needed to offer some context so nobody thought I was just this workaholic who couldn't get away, as she has a baby right here. That was not the reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's look at those. I just want to go over just that list of the things that we use, and then I think we have a couple that we didn't take advantage of, but could.
Yes.
So we did some, maybe it's I'm going to go back through them in opposite order.
Okay.
So we went through them in this episode kind of in the order we did them. But I think going back the other way is in some ways maybe the order of what's available to most people.
Okay.
So first off, just fundraising. Anybody can do that. I think a lot of people do. So you'll see, people just, there's donations or you're doing fundraising through, a t-shirt or a kind of like a fundraiser event or a bake sale, all sorts of different things you could do. So if just fundraising, finding that money, that's a way, if you're listening, trying to figure out how to do this, that you could do. Now that kind of gets supercharged maybe by some of the matching grants and things like that. That was our case, and it's fantastic. Doubles a lot of what you can bring in. So that's the fundraising. Then there were the adoption loans, which we just talked about. And
they're really great for that, last minute pinch, just kind of got to get it over to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of cover your tracks later. They don't really want you to feel like you're indebted. They want you to go apply to different grants.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next
and so through grants that can get paid off, through maybe a little more fundraising, you're kind of just waiting for that money to come in. So those are great for that.
Yep.
Then the grant applications, again, maybe this is a little maybe higher in the list just because it is a lot of work. It's a lot to take on.
You also need a home study.
Yes, you need to be home study approved. That's another reason why we never did it in the past.
We had never been home study approved.
Yes.
Now, we don't know what God's plan is for our family in the future, but we are going to just always renew our home study. We're keeping
that thing renewed. So I don't have to sit down with the same lady again for 12 hours or whatever it was and talk about all the same things
but also
we did before.
For grant application.
Yes.
Both reasons are just a reason to have your home renewed.
Yes. And then, of course, that last one or here on this list is, we did special things in WalletWin, in the business that we own and run, to set that money aside in a special way for. So that one's not always available to everybody because they're not running their own thing. But if you are, well, why not? You got a pizza place. Let's make it adoption weekend, and X% of every pie goes to this or something. You can invite your other people in your community, just like you do through fundraising. You can invite people kind of on the business side too, if that's something you have available.
Now, some people have corporate adoption benefits.
Yes.
This actually happens.
Including, I think it's called Speedway. It's like a gas station convenience store thing.
Oh.
I think from day one, their employees, hourly employees, can get like a $10,000 or $11,000 grant towards adoption.
Wow.
It's incredible. I was looking around to see if there was one around here, but there isn't.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You're going to go get an hourly job?
Yeah.
Working at...
Quite the bonus.
Then they're going to see you have aggressively built your family through adoption, and maybe they're not going to hire you. This guy's going to... Okay.
No, but there's a lot of places out there that could do this. And so, and then just some great work I think that's been done by the Dave Thomas Foundation. One of their things they do is kind of helping companies understand that this is a thing that would be good to do.
Why we love Wendy's so much.
True.
We do love Wendy's. Our kids love it. And they love seeing We Heart Adoption.
It's like all over the place. It's
all
awesome.
all over the place. So we love it. And they have gluten fries, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those were the prongs that we used.
Mm-hmm.
The fundraising, the 0% loans, the grant applications, and then our employer.
Yes. So our corporate benefit. Um, so those are the prongs. Let's make this fork a little bit bigger though, and add a couple more prongs.
Yeah. And I would say these ones, they were on the list because at the end of the day,
Oh, yes.
the adoption expenses, they're so high now that I just researched any possible way to get there. You know, if we needed to find another $10,000 or $15,000, you know, I wouldn't have been opposed to looking at some of these, but they were the last result.
They weren't used because they were lower on the list. Lowest priority.
Lowest priority.
Lowest rung on the ladder.
Maybe that was it.
Lowest on the totem pole.
There we go. You're getting it all right. What my brain was trying to get out. Because there is a little bit of risk involved, and I am fairly risk averse.
There's more risk, or there's more, whether it's financial or not, cost to them. Yeah. So the first would be, you could take a distribution. Is that what you call it? You could take money out of retirement. Disbursement, yeah.
Yes, it was approved recently that with each addition of a child into your family, if it's twins, it could be each child, but $5,000 out of your 401k, IRA, whatever it is, penalty free. Okay, so that's nice that you could actually use that money for whatever, you know, that you might need. Yes. I would never do that if I didn't have an absolute need. Because then you're just going to miss out on the growth that could have happened.
Yes, there's some opportunity costs there. And I believe when it's adoption, the adoption needs to be finalized.
Yes.
Before that can happen penalty free. So in our case here, the adoption is finalized 6 months after the fact. Other states, it can happen
in a week.
6 days, yeah. So in that case, well, then you would have that option available to you a lot earlier. Now, without that, or even if you didn't want to wait, you could take money out of retirement at any point. There's just going to be those penalties then that you have to pay. Yeah. So it makes it more expensive on top of that. But it is an option if you need to find the money.
Yeah, it is an option. Not one we'd recommend. But $5,000 penalty free, and it could be each parent can do this. So it could be, you know, potentially for our son, we'd be clear to take $10,000 to help cover. So if we had any adoption debt, if you will, then we could take advantage of that and then move on. The other one would be, it is a 0% credit card, like a long-term.
Yeah, you sign up for a new card and then they go, hey, it's 0% until...
for 12 months,
18 months, 12 months, whatever it is, yeah.
And we did go through the process of applying for this for an 18-month-long one. And I knew that the chance of us actually utilizing this was essentially zero because I might have a panic attack. But I also knew that I'd applied to so many grants that there really was not a reality where we were going to ever hit the due date, and then all of a sudden they're going to charge me 24.97% on 18 months of a balance. Yeah. It was never going to happen. And so I wasn't that scared of it, and that's the only reason we applied. But I knew if we were in one of these situations where the grants couldn't come through and the funding was just going to take a week or two, and I had to say yes and wire this money to the agency, well, I needed to be able to do that. And so we had those available to us if we.
And that one also can be a little less than ideal because depending on your situation, you might not be able to pay with a credit card.
Right. No, it would have been an extra fee.
There's extra fees, yeah.
You can pay like $100 fee to just have it be wired, but and that was unideal. Again, we didn't use it. Yeah, these are on the bottom. I never wanted to use it, but it was an option that we were well within our discernment to use because we knew we would never get to a situation where we would have to. And I knew that even if we did, which it wasn't going to happen, we always had our own emergency savings that we could have utilized. So again, I just knew that I'm not a person who pays credit card debt. I just can't. And it's because it's extortionary fees.
Yes.
It qualifies for the definition of usury. frankly, I believe they're immoral, the amount of fees that they charge. And so we were never going to go down that path. It was only ever going to be a temporary lever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in a similar
and
way.
that would be the only way I could ever recommend it to someone else.
Yes.
If you know you've got 6 ways to never have this actually get charged,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the only way I would move forward with it. Again, this is not let's go on a great trip to Disney World and hope we make the payment, pay it within 6 months so we don't. No, that's what, the marketers will have.
That's what they want you to do.
Come buy all this furniture, 0 down,
Mm-hmm.
same as cash. We were not falling for a marketing gimmick. It was a very strategic choice. And so nobody mishear me.
Yeah.
Go get one of these for any less important of a reason. This was very specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go. That's the 6-pronged fork, I guess. Though maybe you don't want to use those too.
Yeah.
But the whole thing here, and to maybe wrap this up, is there are ways, right? We could go through this, but when you look at it for what it really is, this was God asking us to grow our family, to provide a home for this boy, to enrich our lives through this, to give him glory. And we did not know how exactly we were going to be able to do that. Hey, plan sounds great. Don't know all the details yet, but let's go for it. And then through all these means is how it was brought about. And so an encouragement to you, certainly if adoption is what you're looking at in your family, or maybe something else the Lord is asking you to do. He's going to bring you right up to the edge. He's going to ask you to step out and to work with him to build that bridge, to get you walking on that water, whatever it is. And we can't do it. It's not going to happen if we aren't willing to trust him and to move forward and to go forward and see what he wants to do and how he wants to do it with you. That is the exciting thing and encouragement, because we all have a call on us. We all have particular things that he wants us to do. And so many of them, even in our own lives, are not being done because we're not listening closely enough, or we're not trusting deeply enough, or we're not ready to just step out and do it. So an encouragement to you to get out there and do the thing, and to be encouraged by this example of the seemingly impossible being made more than possible through our Lord.
Amen. And yeah, maybe we'll be applying to these grants again.
Yeah, we'll have another episode like this in about 18 months. Great.
We'll see what the Lord wants. Until next time, bye for now.